think of style of play and Cleveland Force, and maybe even going a broader context, the style of play as a whole in our country, could you speak a little bit to that as how you think our club style of play is, and then maybe what style of play is for us in the United States? I know I made that a little broad, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll speak. I'll go first from a general standpoint with the United States. I think there are small pockets of clubs that have a real purpose and are driven by a formalized style of play that they've actually have put together, structured it, and have delivered it across their club. But unfortunately, that's one of the challenges in youth soccer in America is you don't have great leadership and guidance that are going to be patient and deliver a style of play versus going out to get results. I've seen at the highest levels with youth soccer that unfortunately styles of play are not consistent across team to team within a singular program. I think, and admittedly for us, we have put in a lot of work, yourself mainly, has put in a lot of work to really deliver a consistent on-field resemblance of who Cleveland Force is with how we want to play, how we want to build out of the back, how we want to play through our midfield, how we need to integrate combinations of functional lines, and how we ultimately want to get in goal-scoring opportunities and position ourselves to be victorious through the right style of play that suits us and the makeup and the player profiles of those that we want to be a part of Cleveland Force.
No, I love that, and I love how you kind of concluded that. The different profiles of players and the different things that might come with that, right? We have put a lot of time in understanding that in our style of play, we want to be adaptable, understanding that we're coming out of the Midwest, we're coming out of Cleveland, and we want to aspire to compete against the best teams in the country, right? And they have resources that we do not have. So, we really looked at style of play from that holistic, that American model. Say, hey, we need to be adaptable. Sometimes we need to be able to sit back a little bit and absorb the pressure, but always saying that we want to be proactive and trying to be on the front foot to give an environment that promotes decision making. Because ultimately we're in the development business, right? So we got to make sure that from U9 or even as low as U6 all the way to U19 that we're creating a space where kids have the chances to make choices, right? So we're never going to just be dogmatic in our approach where it's just one style of play. We do want to have the ball, because we think that promotes decision making, and the standards change, as you kind of go through, but we're aesthetically pleasing. We want to have it. We want the kids to move. We want them to think. We want them to have fun when they're doing it. They got to show their passion. When I think of something as far as deeper as like a system of play, you're going to see us having more players progressing forward than sitting back more often than not. And we've actually made that a part of our coach evaluation process, which I think also makes us unique because now I can go to a game knowing we have a style, knowing we're trying to achieve certain things, and when you start to see those things kind of bubble up, you can help the player understand, you can help the parent understand, you can help the coach understand more. So it just kind of all builds into that decision making and growth and passion for the game. Ultimately, is the style that we have. From the American side, totally agree with you. The leadership that we've put together inside of Cleveland Force, I think, is a part of that small group that you mentioned earlier that's really committed to the long-term development. That is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And trying to educate families to understand that our style is predicated on the long-term development of their kid and not just the moment that they're in at that given time.
Yeah, and I think the term development is really overused in our industry. I think that's just one of those terms that gets thrown out quite frequently with no substance behind it. I think really where we have changed our approach is we've really taken more of an educational approach on this, where you think about building blocks from grades K through 12. I think that's exactly what we've done. We've used the term classrooms purposefully so that it resonates with an educational pathway for players to understand that they are learning year over year in a building block scenario. And yes, development is tied into it, but this is mainly educational. You look at our club, what makes us a little bit different, not just in our market, but I think maybe across the country, is we're much more patient with results, that we understand results will come for us in the older ages because of the patience and the confidence and support we're giving younger players that aren't rushing them into lifting trophies and winning tournaments. We put out all of our accomplishments on our website, on social media and whatnot, but we have a lot of positive things to take out of the educational process, that this is really what is our core building block, more so than the term just developmental. It's the opportunity to educate parents, players on the long-term process rather than constantly using a moniker that's being used across the country that's a bit empty, unfortunately, these last I'd say, decade. So I think we've pivoted from that. Yes, we use the term development like everyone else because it's relevant, but we're really an educational organization, similar to what a school would be. Back in the day, they used to be called soccer schools. And I think that is part of our founding culture as well, that these are soccer schools that came together that are teaching kids how to develop as a soccer player, as a person, as a young man or woman, how to be a good citizen, and ultimately how to achieve their goals in a healthy manner.
What role then does the USL assets play in regards to the Cleveland Force brand and what you're talking about now?
Yeah, I think we're in a phenomenal position that we've put ourselves in with the USL, that we can provide kids in Northeast Ohio the opportunity for a pre-professional pathway. And the USL uses the term pre-professional. Everybody asks us, what's pre-professional? The USL has 2 levels on the men's side and 1 upcoming women's level for actual professional soccer. The USL League 2 and the USLW League is their pre-professional platform that allows those players that are a step or 2 away from being identified and given a platform to become professionals, to achieve their dreams. That's what the USL2 and W League provides. There's equity now with the W League's growth from last year's in its inaugural season to now year 2, where we're joining in, is it gives a huge opportunity for female players that ultimately can't get into the pro game. Now it gives them a platform for the players, the staff, the front office, the operations staff. Everybody in the women's game now has a new opportunity, and we are thankful we get an opportunity to present that in Cleveland. The beauty behind the USL is they've had the vision to say there's another opportunity to continue to develop the next generation through their USL Academy under-19 boys program, which we are hoping that they can expand it into the women's game as well as into younger generations of players, not beyond just U19, but also U16 and maybe below, so that we can continue to provide players of Northeast Ohio, not just Cleveland Force soccer players, but the players who really have ambitions to achieve the highest level of success in the sport. We now have given them a pathway that, yes, we own and operate, but this is club neutral in many ways, that we open the door to anybody that can come participate here and still participate in their home club.
Love that. And it sounds like Force has really been working to build a brand and got almost a unique pathway, if you will. Do you feel that there's a unique type of player or family that we're trying to attract to Cleveland Force?
Yeah, I think ultimately there's a lot of families that have high aspirations, but that isn't enough for us. I think for us, we are in a very unique position where we can be more selective to make sure that they meet our core values. You know, a lot of organizations talk about core values. Everett, you and I really were the driving force behind these core values. We looked at what those founding fathers brought to us. We looked at what mattered to them. We looked at what mattered to us as human beings and what kind of people we wanted to raise in our organization, what kind of young ladies you wanted to raise at home with your wife.
Yep.
So this meant a lot to us to develop these core values that allowed us to filter the conversation with parents through those core values. To say up front, you may be an extremely talented family. Kid may be very talented at this age, but you don't meet our core values. And if you don't meet the values, you won't have success here in this organization. So there's no reason to get you just because your kid is talented. There's more to it. We talk about, and this again comes from our forefathers, the initial club owners, is we have to have a bigger take on the person. We have to value the person and the family and the values from that family more than we maybe have to value the footballer at times. So I think looking at it through that lens, that is a big piece to this that has helped us identify the right people in our organization, especially as we go from the outside coming in. As we've gotten high demand of people wanting to come in, we realize that some people aren't the right fit for us and we're not the right fit for them.
No, I love that, and I would even go on and add a little bit more to that. You know, just from the footballing sense, a technical director, sporting side, the person comes first and foremost. We try and profile that family, and then looking at the uniqueness of that to say that effort and hard work is what we're trying to reward in a process that really is a filtering system, if you look at it that way, because it's about developing talent that can go on and play at the college level. You know, that's what Cleveland Force is really designing their pathways to say, hey, we have a path for you to try to aspire to play at that college level. And by the way, if you aspire to something greater, we have that opportunity for you. But what has to lead that is obviously academics. They got to do well in school, but also their personality. You know, do you interact with others the right way? Do you respect the process of a coach giving you feedback and not taking it as criticism at the end of the day, right? Because to play at those levels, you got to be willing to be accepting. and be willing to take something in and say, okay, I respect that, and let me go and work on that. And the other thing that's really been driving our profiles of our athletes that makes us unique is the ability to have a conversation. Right, we want to be able to have a conversation, obviously with the family, and then with the athlete as they kind of progress through things. And I think that is what we're looking for as a profile. I like using that word, as you said. We worked really hard at developing a player profile, a family profile, so that it makes it more sustainable. As we speak about our founding fathers, people that instilled these principles into us, we want to be able to replicate that into the next generation of coaches. I think so. Our uniqueness when we think about the player and the type of people we're trying to attract, it also flows into our coaching staff. That we're trying to identify coaches that also put the person first, right? And then we can support them in our education department with developing their soccer acumen or how they go about teaching the game or different methodologies, which are just methodologies or processes, right? Are you humble enough and respectful enough and have the integrity to follow the process, no different than you and I are doing, that has been laid out before us, right? So I think that also makes us unique in how we do our talent identification, how we do our coach identification, and ultimately allows us to really express ourselves in the different pathways that have been created here at Cleveland Force going forward.